Lucky you.
36 best
Tune
holes in
into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about golf,
Sandy.
poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script.
Down the stretch they
And
come.
we are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Hey, Billy, we're back at it again. And guess who we have? We have the more popular, the more interesting, the more fascinating, the better storyteller Collins of the famous Collins family. What do you think about that?
I don't know. Another Collins, if it was another Tom Collins, they might have to put me to sleep. So welcome aboard, Marty. It's great to have you.
When my dad first started caddying, he introduced himself to Gene, and he said, "I'm Pat Collins." He goes, "Collins? You bet you have a brother named Tom Collins." And he goes, "Hey, Tommy, knows you."
And this is at the caddy dinner. And 1976, Rabbit of the Year, Martin Collins. So, Gene, I remember him saying that to you. I don't know if I got the year right.
It was very competitive. And the Gene Hayden Award was unbelievably competitive. I started in 75, the autumn. I didn't turn 10 until, we didn't want to break any, laws, so until August. But I caddied in September and October when my dad needed some caddies. In the outings I caddied. But then the first full year was the next year. So I caddied on Caddy's Day, though. That was my first loop. For my papa, my father's father, and Johnny Nixon and Jimmy Nixon, who ran the Caddy Shack down below with the hot dogs and hamburgers, the Nixon brothers, and it was the best. It was the best loop to this day. Well, I carried the bag one hole, and then they let me play, and they all said.
Well, aside from the Collinses being ever present, the delivery system that runs in your family is also classic. I remember years ago, my cousin and I used to play 72 holes in a day. We'd play Simonoi, Stanwich, and both sides of Wingfoot. So one day we're finishing the West course and we come through the archway, and your dad immediately sees us coming and says to the caddies, "Get these bags down to 1 East. These boys are setting records."
I love it. He was on. He knew what you guys were up to. That is so
absolutely.
Cool. What a great day! That is fantastic to play all those in one day. Wow.
Yeah. Well, we do it around June 21st, so we had tons of daylight. Probably did it 4 or 5 years in a row.
How about your legs? Good. Your legs, Martin. How many loops have you ever made in one day?
Only a couple of years ago, just maybe 3 years ago, I did 54 holes. And we were at it was getting dark, and another caddy walked up to me. He goes, "Guess what? I just did 54." And I'm like, "Yeah, so did I." And then I did it again the next day.
Oh, so man.
Back to back 54. And I got to check my nose. I think the next day or the day before it, I played 18 and then drove out and played Bethpage Black and carried my own.
Wow.
Well, Bethpage Black is like 36 holes. It's so long.
Exactly. One of the 73 things, or 173, that make Wingfoot the best is the walkability, how easy it is to walk. And not so much at Bethpage. With Steve Frangiola. That was my first loop.
Steve Frangiola. Yeah.
I think it was everybody's first loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to think of my first loop, but I remember being afraid of basically one hole, and it was 12 East. Because you'd already done 11 holes, and it was this big, long, and I had these, I didn't, 10 years old. How long are your legs, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, but I got a great story for you. One of my first, I just started in the autumn, and believe it or not, they had a club tournament in October, and it was like the Royal and Ancient, I believe it was the Royal and Ancient. It was Tom Collins and Ray Noletti as partners. And I'm 10 years old. We win the match on 15 West. And I don't know, maybe they didn't quite like the other members or something, but they walked in. There was no playing in. So we walked in from 15 West to the clubhouse. I got home and I told my brothers, I told my older brothers, I said, "I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can caddy." "Why? What happened?" I go, I go, I walked from 15 West all the way. Oh, don't worry. You're going to get breaks every couple 100 yards when you caddy.
Yeah.
But I did it in one straight line. So I got
You
thrown
weren't
to the
thinking of
fire.
that. You weren't
That
thinking
was
of that. You were thinking of how that Burton piece of crap strap was tying
uh,
into your shoulder over here and giving you, ditches in your shoulder and bleeding.
Yeah, the leather bag with 24 golf balls in it.
that was weighted down because it got in the rain. We wore jeans with a little rivet on the side, so that would bang into you. You'd have thin T-shirts and heavy bags that would rip your shoulder. Oh yeah, it was we didn't dress the best back then.
You almost enjoyed the fall because you could put another layer on. Now, there's 5 or 6 caddies that I know, and I know a lot of caddies, and there aren't any better than you. And you're in that 5 or 6 from a standpoint of the whole package. When to talk, when to not talk, when to read a green, when to say no, it's a 5-iron.
Important.
When did you feel comfortable that first fall that you? But how quickly were you comfortable in directing guys like around the golf course, if whether it was a 2 handicapper or a 20 handicapper?
The feedback, and you wouldn't believe it how quickly and early I got it, because I would pick up on nuances, and you guys understand this, like before yardage caps and guns, and everybody knows exactly what yardage is. 2 West is one of the great holes in Winged Foot because the elevation is a half a club and the bunker is kind of into the green, a quarter of a club maybe. So you definitely, into the north wind, you could take 2 extra clubs just to get to the center of the green if you take the bunker on. I caddied for the Harmon Roys. I've caddied for some great players. I was with Harvey Hoyt, who's a great player, played in the club championships. So I learned that you need an extra club or 2 to get up there. So I would, after the first hole, I would know, oh, this guy can hit a 7-iron 150 or whoever I'm caddying for. And we get to the second hole, he'd take a drive, and then he'd go take the club out of the bag, and I'd hold on to it. No, you got to use this one. And they look, and they couldn't believe it. I was as everybody said, he's no bigger than the bag, but I just knew that one. And then, so things like that I picked up early because, and one of the main reasons I think is the camaraderie. We had so many caddies, and we hung out by that railing right by Gene's office. And we were all like from Peter Malloy and Richie Baker and Bobby Morrell and Keith Shaw and me and Colin Porter, and there was just so many of us. It was a huge group, so we all tied stories and talked about it and got better through through each other. But one of the things that was I loved doing was from my older brother. Then I started doing was we made our own yardage books back then. We were the first. And we would go out and especially get pin placements for the Anderson. Then they started to put the little silver things on the trees, or they put the white birches on the side. It was one of the most interesting loops of all time. Danny Green, he made it to the quarterfinals. He lost to Luke List in the quarters. There was 8 players, 6 of them had Winged Foot caddies, and one of them was a Winged Foot caddy, Andrew Sabota. That was awesome. That was a great time, that U.S. Amateur. Danny Green was, he was, 5'10", which or shorter, which was about 4 inches shorter than the average. He weighed about 240 on that frame, and he had the ham sandwich grip and the tongue out, and wore socks up to his just below his knee. The guy was a professional gambler, and if you looked at him, you'd probably be like, oh, I'll play this guy. And then he'd hit shots, and you'd be like, he was one of the greatest putters I ever saw.
And the Amateur was one of the greatest tournaments that I've ever watched at Winged Foot, because you could walk side by side with Martin and Danny Green or Andrew Sabota, and he went to what, the quarters too?
He was in a group ahead of us, and the whole
world. Was Brian Harmon in that also?
Not in that. He played in that event, but he didn't make it. I don't know if he made it to the quarters. We lost to Luke List. Luke List beat us.
Ryan Moore was the winner.
Ryan Moore. He was a friend of mine's son went to school with him, and we took him to Siwanoy the day before his Winged Foot practice round. Oh, and wow. It was a funny thing because we came on another kid, a pretty good young kid at Siwanoy, who said to Brian, let's play for money. And Brian Harmon, who was just a kid himself, looked at me and says, please, Mr. Regan, tell me it's okay to play him for some money. I was like, no, Brian. I didn't bring you here to fleece the members. Forget it. He shot like a 66 at Simonway his first time around.
What about over the years? You went through some really good players at Wingfoot too, and there's competition at Wingfoot. The club championship is certainly a great competition. You've been in center stage of that.
I grabbed Bobby's loop after he retired from caddying and took his team. It was his team, Sonier and McKinney, to win the Anderson. And then I also won the Anderson seniors with David Brookerson, one of the finest players of all time in the Anderson amateurs ever. He hit 18 greens on the West Course. Somebody asked me about who I've caddied for. And at Wingfoot, I've caddied for 8 US Open winners. 8 US.
Wow.
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, right. So Matty Fitzpatrick.
Oh.
Tiger Woods, Lee Janzen, Andy North, Raymond Floyd, Arnold Palmer, Ken Venturi, and Tom Watson. I took away just I would look at them and be like, Andy North was one of the nicest people I've ever met, and it's nice to be around, just really nice people. And Arnold Palmer was the king to be around. I guess just treat people nicely and be happy and just be that is definitely a trait that I'd like to keep doing.
So tell us from your own perspective. You went down on the West Course with Palmer. Tell us that whole story, right?
All right. It's a fun one. It is a fun one. It was a corporate outing, and it was Xerox Corporation, and we didn't do the course like we did the old school. I don't think don't do it this way anymore in many outings. But Arnie and I drove out to 7 West and parked ourselves there for the day. He gave me his he goes, here, put this on. I wore his Rolex watch on my little arm. I could barely lift my arm. It was so big. 2-hole sometime or a 1-hole gap. And then we would just chat and talk. And I've hit chips and putts with him. And he'd play the hole, and then I'd be in the cart and I'd drive him back to the tee box. So I drove him back to the tee box, 18 times, and so we chatted. We were like the whole day. We spent the whole day together. I had a great time with him. I felt so, like I chipped in one time and he looked at me, and Arnie's good best friend, really good friend, is his dentist friend, is a cat. He took pictures with, unbeknownst to him. I didn't even know he was taking pictures out there.
Doc Giffen?
Doc. And he, Doc took some beauties and action photos. And like, I got a picture of me, like, making a shot, and like Arnie looking at me like, wow, like this. And I'm like going, I can't believe these photos that I have. I mean, they're just so special. It was a great day. We had a fabulous day, and I thought we were like, got to know each other a little bit. So the outing's over. We head back in, and now the guys grab them from Xerox. They're in suits. The suits grab them, and I put his bag down by just by the lower locker there, and they're scooting him into the locker room. I'm sure they got dinner, they got to talk, like he's got to give talks and stuff. So, and Artie's like, okay, I'll go there. So I'm like, Artie, you got anything you put in the bag, like balls and tees? I didn't want to go inside in the clubhouse with his tees and balls. I do it like that all the time. And he goes, he just gave me the glove, and he goes, no, here, and he goes, thanks, Brian. Something like that. And I just like, now you got to remember, I've been in the cat yard. We got some, you stand up for your rights, or you're going to get run over. So I go, I just looked up and go, no problem, Jack, you got it. And I took and it just flowed out of my mouth like just as quick and as easy, like that. Like there wasn't anything else I was going to say. You called me by the wrong name, I got to call you by the right name. So the Xerox guys, I've never seen a change. Like they went from the quickest, fastest, we got to go, to they stopped and looked at me, and he goes, do you know who this is? Like, do I? And I'm like going, I want to, do I know who it is? Yeah, I just spent 8 hours with them. Yeah, I kind of got an idea.
I think he looks familiar.
I got a little idea, pal. And he goes, well, this is Arnold Palmer. He goes, yeah, and I'm Martin Collins, not not Brian. And the look on, oh, sorry, oh, I get it. Okay, so then they go in the clubhouse, and I'm like, that's the end of it. That's fine. I said I stuck up for my name. So the next day, I'll never forget this. I'm on the West course, and I'm on 1 West. I go to 9 West. I'm cutting to 10, and I'm just, got my head down. I'm walking past 18 green, and my dad, hey, Marty, hey, Dad, come on, come here. And I go, what's up? I go, there's a couple of guys from Xerox in the pro shop. They want to talk to you. And I go, I'll never forget. I go, I was only joking. Like what are they going to arrest me or something? So I'm paranoid. So I put the bags on the tee, and I go inside, and I look at the guys. They're hanging. When you go into the old pro shops, it's to the left there. They're two gentlemen in suits. Xerox, and they're Martin. Oh, hi, Martin. Yeah, I go. They have this brown papered package, and it's this big by this big. It's they go, Arnold Palmer had a wonderful day with you yesterday, and he wanted you to have this as an appreciation of working with you, if you're working for him. And I was, now I'm like, oh my God, I'm not in trouble. and I open it up, and it's a framed picture, one of those action photos of me and Arnie, and it's best wishes, Arnold Palmer, and it's a keepsake. I mean, it's one of the greatest things, awesome. Greatest gift ever. Like, I mean, it was. And after he died, I've seen all these, and Arnie did 1,000 of these. Like he was that way. If he was just, he made sure everybody was happy with him. So that's my Arnie story.
There's one fact I want to clear up. How far down into Mamaroneck did you get with that Rolex on your left wrist?
Oh God, that thing! Well,
you wouldn't have missed it.
First of all, I couldn't believe how beautiful Rolex watches are. Like they to me, I don't think I've seen one up close at that time. And then it was like, oh my God, I could have put it over both of my wrists.
Yeah.
Biggest hands I ever shook was Johnny Unitas. I drove a cart out to give the group something. And I'll never forget, on like 16 West, and they run this out. They give a phone message back then. Nobody had phones. Like, very important. I drove a cart out. And Bobby was caddying for him, and I shook his hand, and my hand got lost in his hand. It was unbelievable. But that was Wingfoot. There's always I always say, like, if people say, who have you caddied for, like famous or whatever, I always say, well, put it into a category, like politician, actor, football player, baseball player, because there'd be
otherwise we'll be here all day.
You go out and play 36 holes in a couple of weekends, and you get to pick 2 guys. One's a golfer and one's a celebrity. And who's going to fill out your threesome? Maybe Bobby's going to play with you as the 4th, but you get to pick the other 2 guys, and anybody you pick's going to come and play 36 holes with you. Who would you pick?
Yeah, well, that's simple. My dad would be one. That's right there. And oh boy, we'd have some fun. We'll put a pro in there, and Arnold Palmer. What the heck? We'll bring Arnie back.
I'd caddy for that group.
Yeah, I love it.
We asked Alicia Debos who she would play with if she had one spot, Annika Sorenstam or Arnold Palmer. And she thought about it for a while, and she said, oh, Arnold Palmer. He's so charming.
Yeah, he's handsome.
What makes him so charming? You spent a day with him.
He talks to people like they're very, very important. Somebody asked for an autograph, and then they wouldn't have the pen. They'd have to go in the clubhouse. He'd wait for them. So you don't have the pen. I'm sorry, I gotta go. He'd wait for them and then sign it. Whatever they wanted signed. So he would.
I had that experience with him myself in Las Vegas in a pro-am, walking from the 18th green to the locker room. He signed every autograph. It wasn't like he signed as he went. He waited till no one was asking again. It took him 45 or 50 minutes to get into that locker room. It was unbelievable.
So, Martin, a lot of things have changed over the years, especially in caddying. I know a bunch of caddies down here in Florida who have a very interesting cadre. Like, you have guys that you caddy for. And in the old days, Billy, you and I know, you'd sit there and Gene Haven, hey, Billy Regan, go get Billy and Bobby Kuntz. That's how you found out. Nowadays, ahead of time, right, Marty? How's that evolved? Like, a guy will tell you they're coming up. How has that evolved with the cell phone and text messaging and all that?
And the
Well,
caddy master has to cooperate with that as well, I assume, right?
right, definitely. We'll definitely have to. Many caddies that have guys that they caddy for, and they'll tell them, they're going to play tomorrow, at 10 o'clock. And then if they're smart, they tell Dave, Dave, my guy is playing tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And okay, great. So Dave pencils it in so he knows, what's going on. And then, listen, there's guys in Florida that I know that they don't make a loop without the night before. They know the loop. Every loop they make is set up the night before, and that to me it's just brilliant.
But here's the other thing I wanted to ask you. This is always my philosophy. Let's say you went out with a caddy, and on the second hole it just cats and dogs, and you rained out for the day. I have my philosophy. When you go out and you're going to take a caddy, and that's something like that, Mother Nature ruins the day. Let's say the caddy fee's $120. I paid 120. I don't think, we only went 2 holes, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that's the right way of thinking about it? If you were the member or if you're the caddy, what do you think?
Wow, I'm still a caddy. Of course I think that.
I just think that's the right thing to do, right?
It's a wonderful gesture. And it's one member who does that with me, who said, it's not your fault it rained. And then he says PV, if you remember PV, if they go more than 2 holes, they got to pay in full. he had a formula, but I like your gesture better, though.
Martin, Arnold Palmer, Ray Floyd, Ken Venturi, Andy North, Lee Jansen, Tiger Woods, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Tom Watson. Yes. What do you remember about going around with Tom Watson? Because boy, he was, like, to me, the perfect person for Winged Foot, because he could hit it long. He hit it through the wind. He has a good chipping game, reasonably good putter back then, right?
Oh, I used to love, the waggle, and then the speed of, like, I watched him on a YouTube take a club out at Augusta on 15 and then get up there, and I swear he hit the shot within 7 seconds. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. That was so talk about repetitive swings. But I would love that. He was on the range hitting balls, and I was watching him, and he peppered the top of the net with a driver, and because he didn't want it to hit it onto 80s fairway, and he literally could have hit it over 80s fairway if he wanted to, but he was just hitting these shots out of respect for Winged Foot. And then I was on the first day. Is the first tee open? I'm like, no, they're almost gone. Hit a few more.
So for those people that don't know the crappiest driving range in all of golf, it's at Winged Foot, but it's convenient. It's right there off the white tee on 1 West. But what would you say? It's about 215 yards to hit the fence. Maybe. Yeah. And the net's probably about 50, 60, 70 feet high, maybe at the most. And it's just a little nylon net, right?
That's it. Yeah.
You're gonzo. If you're a member and you hit it over there, they tell you to leave, right? You're done.
It's tough. It's not a good thing. But
you do get to brag a little bit.
It was great. I mean, this his game is so here's a fun little we'll call it a bitch that he had out on the course. He's playing with Sandy Tatum, and he was his elderly friend from the USGA, and they'd have a match all the time, and with strokes and everything, so it was they were like everybody. They would play good matches, and so we get to 13, and they go, how far is this? Like 220 or so? I say, yeah, it was like 215 or so. He's like, yeah, the pin's back left. These courses, he was bitching at me, but he was like, it's like the 16th shot hole, 13 West, like the 16th shot hole. So he's a 4 point, he's a plus 5. So he's got to take a stroke off his scorecard before he even gets on the tee. And it's a 215 yard with a back left pin. He's hitting a 4-iron, 3-iron. And he's just like, what chance do I have?
We're going to ask you the question we ask everybody else. You're a pretty competent golfer. Forget about 3 East that's already taken. Now you got 7 par 3s at Winged Foot. Which one would you choose to make par or better for $1,000 for a large sum of money?
3 East is out. So I have to make a 3 or better. It wouldn't be 13 East. It wouldn't be 7 It would be 7 West. People underestimate it or something because it's a tiny bit more popped up green, or it's really not. There's not a big hill, but the popped up green. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it's the most fat hit shot at Winged Foot, like the divots on that tee box, because the right shoulder dropped because people try to get it up on top of that a hill. So it has a little bit of a trick to it, so it's not the easiest. But one of the jobs I had in the early years during outings, which was one of the greatest jobs of all time, was hole-in-one watcher. So I had 7 West a lot, for some reason. They would go out and I'd get out there at 8 in. They wouldn't even get, I'd bring a ball and a putter. I putted 7 West one summer, like probably 30, 40 hours. I'm not exaggerating.
See any hole-in-ones in your life out there live? You must have seen many, right?
I've seen a few. But one of my quirky kind of things is, one year I caddied for a hole-in-one on 3 West, and it was Tom O'Malley Sr. I remember the players, and that Thursday I caddied for a hole-in-one on 13 West with Tom Lynette Sr. So 3 and 13, Tom Lynette, Tom. So 5 years later, a few years later, a lady had a hole-in-one on 3 East on a Tuesday, because I checked the book. I'm like going, oh wow, Dana Fagasi. So I'm caddying on Thursday and made that one loop that day, and sure enough, he had a hole-in-one on 13 East. So 3 and 13, Tuesday and Thursday. It was fun. When that went in, I was just like, oh my God, it took me about a day. I was like, it was a Tuesday and Thursday of 1 week, but they were 5 years apart, like something like that.
Wow. So Tuesday's the day to go out with Martin.
Yeah.
Or Thursday.
I brought up your brother Neil the other day because somebody putted it was a little bit more than the average putt from the fairway. I go, to Neil Reagan.
As Neil used to say, I'm comfortable from 150 yards.
So one of the favorite things I did when we were caddying was caddy stay. We had a caddy stay, or we had a tournament. It was called the Doobie Open.
They've got if they're playing up on 1 East and they hit it down the right side over that bunker and it's dry, there's a chance to get on 1 East. They go over the out of bounds on 5 East to try to get on, right?
10.
Oh yeah.
9. I've seen them come close to 9. They just take it down the whole way. And if they carry the fairway, they get down to the front. 10, 11, of course.
Mike Gilmore once hit a drive with me like that. He carried it. I was like, where is he going down there? And it bounced through the rough. He was right in front of the green.
He drove 15 East. That's a hard enough green to hold with a 9-iron, let alone a driver.
With all the camera phones and stuff, did anybody have a video of that? Like, I know I'm not calling him on that, but wow.
I have my own video because I was standing at the white tee watching it, Mike, and he saw it go on the green, and he was below the hole.
One of the great stories I heard years ago was Lynette and Storninger playing in the Anderson, and Lynette hit a good drive. He hit 3-wood first. He hit the fairway. And I think he hit a 3-wood.
What hole are we on?
6 West.
6 West.
And so Storninger pulls out the 3-wood, and he goes, "No, I'm in the fairway. You can go for it." And he goes, "I am
going for it." Yeah.
Best round of golf you ever saw at Winged Foot, East or West? Gross.
Oh, Hans Albertson.
Yeah, I saw Hans Albertson. Yeah, no, I saw him the year before. He was beaten by in the semifinals on the 12th hole by Timmy Connors.
Timmy Connors. It was incredible. That might have been that. That was now that you brought that up. He hit 2 pins on the first. He was hitting pins, and if he wasn't hitting the pin, he was knocking it like 6 feet and 8 feet. That's
another piece of junk.
I was like, oh my God, this was like it was unbelievable how like on fire he was. Like he would have beaten 99% of all golfers, all in the world, on that day. And I caddied for him in the Met Am at Quaker Ridge, and he shot 64, which is a course record at the time, a competitive course record. And he had a putt for 63, it just slid by the hole. He knocked it like 8 feet, maybe. He could have shot 63. And all I remember was just having 6, 7, 8 footers all day long on Quaker Ridge from the back tee, so that was probably the best I ever caddied for a course record, like that was pretty cool.
What do you think about what's going on? The whole courses have been updated or restored and so forth. Has it been a learning process for you because it's so
Oh,
different, right?
oh, without a doubt, the greens, they're different, or they're, like, so even if they restored them back to the original, that well, they're not what they were for the last 25 years, so there's definitely putts that have to, like the bunker might have been, or the mound near the bunker, of course the edge of the green is going to be higher too. So you're definitely, and that's where they put the pins all the time, on the sides. So yeah, they're just definitely learning new learning experiences, which is fun. It's great. It's a great thing. Or you have to read every putt. I just I don't believe in the which way does this go? I have to look. I mean, I'm in scrambles, and I please do not put the ball down 3 inches on the other side of that tee. I read the putt for here. This putt is inside right from here.
Yeah.
You put the ball down over there. That might be half a ball outside the inch. Not inside.
Much difference. Yeah.
And so that's how Winged Foot greens are. And
you eliminate 1 west and you eliminate 13 east, because we've had this discussion. Those are obviously too hard greens to read and putt. What are the other 34 holes? What do you think's the hardest green to read?
One of the areas I have, like, I scratch my head is 11 west, when the pin is down in front and you putt down. Sometimes if the pin there's not only is the ball moved, you can move the cup. One day they put the cup here, and then the next day a little bit over, and then the putt goes this way, and the other day it goes this way. So that area always, and 15 west in the mid portion, I have, like, there's a putt that I know. I read it, and it's the only putt that I've ever had that I don't see this, but I know it goes 2 cups left to right. I said, I don't see that. Like, I see inside right, even after knowing what it does. Optical illusion. Tillinghast will have a mound over here that makes you look like that's what you see. But there's a tiny mound over here where your ball is going to be. That's what's going to get affected. The putt's going to affect. So the greens are fabulous. Every day they're like, let's check these out. And the speeds change.
One thing that I like what you do is you'll go down the line and you'll go like this here and then it over here. And in other words, you don't just say play the cup. Sometimes you'll show the vision of the way the putt should look. And I think with like I saw some of these golf courses recently, maybe it was the one in Mexico that they never played before, but it was right to left a cup, 15 feet. They're making everything because it was their strokes are pure, and they're never a double break. There's never a triple break, right?
The greens were pure.
Winged Foot, I don't think there's never not. Like there is always. I give this read 1,000 times every. This putt breaks right to left, but at the very end, it's going to go back a little bit the other way. That is every read, or it's the opposite, left to right. But there's very rarely do I say, oh, this is a pure right to left, or all the way. Like it's unreal.
Yeah. I've had so many caddies telling me, but it straightens out at the end.
Any parting thoughts or questions for Martin?
No, just appreciation. I love you sharing all this. Your expertise is clear. Your love of the course is clear. Your love of your job is clear. It comes across when I see you at the club all the time. You don't do many loops for me, which is smart. Although it'd be easy for you because I use a cart most of the time.
I see that. I'm getting older. I might be maybe leaning that way.
Anytime. I got room.
Right. I'd love to, Bill.
I don't know. Another Collins, if it was another Tom Collins, they might have to put me to sleep. So
when my dad first started caddying, he introduced himself to Gene, and he said, "I'm Pat Collins." He goes, "Collins? You bet you have a brother named Tom Collins." And he goes, "Hey, Tom, he knows you."
Thanks for joining us today.
Billy Harmon.
We really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity.
And please
Arky.
subscribe to the show.
Outer.
And hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon.
icon so you get notified.
Movie classics.
New episodes.
Mark Gable.
Hit them
Odd
hard
Job.
and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.